goes over to Kim.
My name is Panquetzani.
And my name is Makeda.
We're here in Costa Rica with our retreat, Matriz Mistica, and we wanted to share with you a really important conversation that we had yesterday in our Matriz Mistica retreat. We talked about exercise and how exercise can impact your womb and how some exercises can actually be detrimental to your pelvic floor, contributing to your dropped womb. So when you're going to the gym sometimes and you think you're doing something positive for your health, as a woman, you're actually doing things that harm your health.
Exactly. So one thing that Panquetzani brought up yesterday was that a lot of fitness stuff that we have today has been developed on men and is made more for men. And I began to think about that, and it's actually true. I have a degree in exercise and sports science, and most of the research done in that field, just like the medical field, has been done on men. And there's a lot of differences with the female body. We're treated as if we're just little men. Like, women are just little men, and children are little adults, and none of that is true. So we have some differences. Definitely the fact that our center of gravity is in a different place. So for women, our center of gravity is in our hips. Men's center of gravity is higher. And the womb is not taken into account. Actually, in most medical classes and physiology classes, they talk about the human female in the womb as if it's like a mistake in the body. Like there's something wrong with the way it's placed, and it's not really discussed.
A lot of sports exercise was developed for men for the sports that they wanted to play, to condition and to train them. For women, the exercise that we use in our daily life is actually life exercise. So what are the things that we do for our bodies to condition them, to make them strong, to do the things, the daily things that we need to do, and also to survive, to make sure that we enhance our bodies for survival, right? So that we can protect our family, our friends, and ourselves. One of the things that a lot of folks like to do today is lift weights. And lifting weights is awesome. It increases your bone density, it makes you stronger, and it actually increases your lifespan. But when we lift weights, we're doing that under a patriarchal model, a male model of fitness. So we need to create fitness that is actually centered around the woman's body.
That's very true. Even speaking about lifting weights for everyday activity. Being a woman, most of my female clients will tell me that they have 5-pound dumbbells and they kind of think they're not supposed to lift more than 5 pounds, but being a mother and just being pregnant with a baby that weighs more than 5 pounds, but also walking with babies on your back, on your chest, carrying them, that takes strength. That takes back strength. It takes engaging the abdominals, and a lot of it is like body awareness. Engaging our abs and lifting things with the right technique has a lot to do with body awareness, and that's one thing that we also spoke about yesterday. That some exercises are bad for the general public, but not people who may have like a more advanced awareness of contracting. Some exercises aren't good for people that have certain imbalances already going on. So lifting weights and strength training is important, but it needs to be, it depends on how it's done and the exercises are done.
So the reason that when we lift weights, the reason it can be detrimental to our health is, one, Makeda mentioned improper lifting. So that's something that's easy to correct. There are a lot of videos on YouTube. Do you have videos about that?
I have videos about squatting properly. Yeah.
And that's important, squatting properly while you're bearing weights.
Yes.
So if you're bearing weights, you're squatting improperly. If you're bearing weights and you're not lifting with your pelvic floor at the same time, what happens is all of this downward pressure that you're creating as you're pushing up is actually weakening your pelvic floor with time, and it's actually creating inflammation in your uterus and dropping her, okay? So anatomically, our uterus should be about 2 fingers underneath our belly button and a couple fingers above our symphysis pubis. If it is not in that place, it tends to distend or stretch our pelvic floor. And if your pelvic floor is stretched, you're at an increased risk for using adult diapers. You're at an increased risk for other things like hormonal imbalance, where there is inflammation. When there is inflammation in this area, there is going to be hormonal imbalance. There's going to be imbalance. This is your core, this is your feminine center. And we need to, even when we exercise, even when we're being rough and trying to create muscle mass, we need to be aware that this is the feminine center.
And adding on to what she's saying, when I train clients, and one reason why I'm not a big fan of fitness DVDs and things like that is because a lot of people, they don't have the awareness in the first place to lift correctly and engage their muscles correctly. So for example, like with a squat, what she was saying, she gave the example of what happens if you do squats with weight and you're not engaging your muscles properly, what can happen. If you're doing squats with weight and you are engaging your muscles properly, and you know, on the way down, you have to use your abs, all abs during squats. On the way down, and especially pushing up, when you're pushing up against the weight. You have this weight on you and you're pushing up against it. Engaging your abs and your pelvic floor and keeping them engaged on the way up is very important. This is why, and I talk about this in my Squats for Life video, the breathing has everything to do with that. So when you're squatting and you have a load on your shoulders, on the way down you're inhaling, on the way up you're holding your breath, and you're holding your breath and engaging your abs. That's protecting your spine and is keeping everything protected, and you exhale when you get on top. If you have weight on your shoulders and you exhale at the bottom, like if you're down here, before you push up, if you start to exhale, you release all this pressure, and a lot of extra stress goes onto your spine and your pelvic floor. So before I give anybody squats with weights, I always make sure that their form is absolutely perfect first with body weight. Your form needs to be perfect with body weight, and you need to know how to breathe properly. When you don't have weights, if you don't breathe properly, it's not so bad. If you squat with the incorrect technique and you don't have weights, you might hurt yourself, but you might not. Like, it's not as detrimental. But when you have weights, it's very critically important to lift correctly.
It is critically important. And a lot of my clients who are female weightlifters, bodybuilders, or have lives or jobs where they're always lifting, they have the longest term effects. So they are the ones who have to work really hard to bring their pelvic floor to an elastic state. And a lot of times after I go in there and adjust their womb with a womb massage or a womb adjustment, a sobada, it'll drop 2 to 3 days later because their pelvic floor is too lax. It's not as toned as it should be because of this. So a good rule of thumb when you're at the gym working out or lifting anything, even your child or your bag, is to just do a lotus lift or a pelvic floor lift, or tighten and bring up your pelvic floor as you're doing that movement, as you're doing that lift, with of course maintaining your alignment and posture.
Before you lift something with weight, that weighs something, the way you approach it is different. Like if I know I'm going to pick up a really heavy box off the ground, when I'm approaching that box, like I'm getting my whole body into a different stance, and I'm getting ready to like take a deep breath and hold and really like engage my muscles. When people just kind of like pick stuff up or like shovel snow, no thought, and they're just tossing stuff, and they're not thinking about what they're doing, and they're not engaging their muscles, that's when damage happens. When it's done correctly, when you engage your muscles, that's what strengthens your abs and strengthens your core. And that's way more effective than doing crunches and things like that. Also, when you do squats correctly with weight, it does strengthen your pelvic floor because squats is a core exercise. Core muscles are all the muscles that cross the hips. So that's your abs, that's your glutes, that's your hamstrings, your back muscles, your quads, and your diaphragms, urogenital and pelvic diaphragms, vaginal muscles, and muscles, all core muscles, and you work all of those in squats, loaded squats. So if you do it correctly, it'll make you stronger and it's great, and if you do it wrong, then it's not. Same thing with the knees. If you squat incorrectly with weight, you can really damage your knees, but if you do it correctly, it strengthens your knees. A lot of people think squats are bad for the knees, and that's only if they're doing it wrong. Same thing with your spine. So it's very important as well. And we will be doing a video on core exercises that dislocate the bone, so you can look out for our next video.
So we leave you with that. Our workshop participants are actually arriving, and we're going to start day 4 of our 7-day Matriz Mistica retreat. And I hope that this video inspires you to think about what is inside your body, the muscles inside of your body, the strength that you have inside of your body, and not only conditioning the outside of your body for your muscles to look nice and toned and lean and long, but also for them internally to be healthy, life-sustaining, and powerful enough to take you throughout your whole life to increase your quality of life.
And you don't want to do things that make you look good on the outside and is damaging your inside. So they're both important and they both need to be considered.
Thank you.